This video offers a comparison between two different orchestrations, two different methods for performing quality assurance checks on Canvas course sites. In particular, this is important as part of the migration process, taking courses from the Blackboard Learn learning management system to the Canvas LMS. It's one of three similar videos comparing orchestrations for three related migration tasks. These videos support an AskALike research poster. There's a link in the video's description to a web page that contains the poster, these videos and other related resources. So the task we're focusing on in this case is how do you ensure the course sites you've just migrated from Blackboard to Canvas don't have any problems. Problems like broken links, generally because they've been broken in Blackboard for a long time, not during the migration. Is there any remaining Blackboard terminology mentioned in the course site that is no longer suitable for use in the Canvas LMS? Are there files that are unused or duplicated? Similarly, are there pages that are unattached, unused, modules or pages that aren't published and thus aren't visible to students? Is the naming scheme for modules and perhaps links logical and appropriate? Are there images that don't have alt text? Are there any remaining migration placeholders, small messages left by the migration staff, indicating whether something needs to be revised further to complete the actual migration? The problem that we faced is that there is no QA tool available for use that helps in the whole process, nothing to actually scaffold the whole QA process as part of the migration. There are various checklists like the Canvas Course Evaluation Checklist and various supporting tools such as the Accessibility Checker in the Canvas Rich Content Editor and Canvas's Course Link Validator. However, the available tools all require some level of manual labour. They don't support local contextual details, particularly as part of the migration. For example, knowing that to be able to access a secure site that belongs to the institution, that's not actually a 404 error like the link validator will return. So how would you do that? The first orchestration, the first method we're going to look at is the QA checklist. This is the default orchestration developed at our institution and probably similar to those used in many other institutions. It is essentially a Word document, just like the image that's shown here on this slide. It's essentially a table. There are a sequence of categories of QA checks. Each category contains a number of individual items that need to be checked. There are columns to indicate the status of that check and also any notes that might be necessary about what was found and what needs to be done next. The advantage of this checklist over existing checklists is that it contextualizes the QA process to our situation. It can draw on information and checks that we need to know to do within our context within migration. And to complete this, you can make use of existing Canvas QA tools like the link validator. However, each check must be done manually. And remember, we're doing this in our group for at least 1,500 courses and at the institutional level over 4,500 courses. So we're going to do this manually. What does this actually look like? So what does this look like? Well, it means manually going through each page in the course site. If we're just doing images, it means opening up the editor, checking the HTML to see if there's an alt tag that's there. If there isn't one, all good. We go on to the next page. We open up the next one. We again open up the HTML. We check to see whether there's an alt tag. Oh, no, there isn't. So now we can't actually fix this particular problem because as migration staff, we may not have the content knowledge necessary to actually fix that particular problem. So that means we're going to have to take a note to say that actually the image on this particular page didn't have an alt tag, and that note needs to be passed along to some of the content experts that actually may have the knowledge to correctly implement the alt tag. In terms of task, an even worse one is probably going to be checking to see whether files are duplicated or unused. The complexity of this task starts with the nature of the files area, which can be quite complex, and you need to know and be able to search and find files within that structure. Typically, Common Core migration will not have any logical structure. This one does. So you find a file, you then get the actual ID of the file, And then you have to see where that appears in the file structure, so you know whether or not it's a duplicate or whether it's been used or unused. Because I know the structure of this one, I'm actually able to go and find this particular image quite easily and know that this is the image that's used there. So we know that this particular image has now been used. So we keep a track that this one has been used, and so we then, we confirm it's actually the right one. We move on to the next page, and we repeat that process with this next image. Again, relying on knowledge of the structure of the files area to check the ID, keeping a track of which ones are duplicate and which ones aren't. Now, fairly obviously from this process, you can see how this is very manual, relies on humans getting this very manual process right all the time, and has some limitations. You probably don't want to rely on this all that much. The second orchestration for doing quality assurance on migrated courses we're going to look at is the solution that was developed by our group, which we call Canvas QA. In Canvas QA, a script actually leverages the Canvas API to perform a range of automated checks. It actually automates doing a lot of these checks for us. And once it's done those checks, it writes to a web page that is located in the Canvas files area of each course site. That web page, that Canvas QA report, is updated each day. Originally, this was designed for the migration process, but our current intent is that it will evolve Canvas QA so that we're going to be able to use it as business as usual. Now, during migration, it's typically going to be a migration staff member doing the QA check using the report. But in business as usual, we're hoping to see that this might be leveraged by academics as well, but time will tell. So for doing a QA check on an individual course, the first check is to open up the Canvas QA report. So we go into the files area, into the QA info folder, and there's our report. We open that up, and here we go. We've got our categories of QA checks. We've got the number of problem items that were flagged, and we can go in and look at each of these categories. And so we're looking at placeholders here, and we can actually see that we've got the details of where that is, what was found, the nature of the type of problem that was found, and we can click on the link that will take us to the page, and we can actually see there's the problem that's there, and we've confirmed that, and we can actually fix that problem then and there. Or we can go and have a look at some of the other checks. So this is the modules check, which is going to tell us whether there are unpublished modules or whether there is items in modules that are unpublished. And we can check which ones those are, and we can then make a decision based on the design of the course whether or not that's a problem that needs to be fixed or not. And just finally, what we're going to have a look at is the files area, checking to see whether there are duplicate files or files that are unused. And in this case, we've got a representation of the structure of the file system and actually highlighted which files are used or unused. And so hopefully from that you can see that it makes the process of doing the QA check quite a lot easier. Canvas QA provides a few major benefits. For example, there's no reason for us to manually search out the course site for the QA problems. Canvas QA automates that process. Then scaffolds and diagnoses the diagnosis and remedy stage, where it actually helps us find where the issue is, look at it, figure out whether it needs to be done, and then we can move on from there. And also it's ongoing. The QA check is reported, is updated every day, so that enables us tracking of new issues and resolving ones that have gone before. So there we go. We've looked at two orchestrations for completing the task of doing a QA check on migrated Canvas course sites.